Urahara and Shunsui are running. Urahara says, "It's him we're talking about, so he will probably be fine." Shunsui replies, "You're right, but the bigger issue we have are those Reiatsu tremors I'm sensing. They're moving further and further away, and the Reiatsu surrounding them is starting to weaken." Urahara questions, "Have all the vice captains been defeated?" Renji answers, "Rukia and I are still good to go, along with Hinamori." Shunsui confirms, "Nanao is still with us." Shinji adds, "We don't even know where the enemy is aiming from or who they're targeting. But if we slow down, we're playing right into the enemy's hands." Then we see Lille Barro aiming his gun. He says, "It's terrifying, isn't it? Having no idea where I am aiming from, as your comrades fall one by one. In such a situation, it's only natural to be overwhelmed with terror." As Shunsui runs, he says, "We've got to do something. We've made countless sacrifices and still have no idea who our enemy is or where they are." Lille says, "But if there were a person devoid of those fears in their group." Suddenly Shunsui stops, draws his sword, and protects Nanao. He says, "For our next move, someone's going to have to take the risk of becoming a human shield if we have any hope of turning the situation in our favor." Lille Barro responds, "Then that person is either a lunatic or an idiot, or maybe both. Who would just stand and offer such a perfect opening?" Shinji shouts, "You fool! I told you if you make a move, you'll be playing right into their hands." Lille aims and shoots at Shunsui. Shunsui takes the first hit, and the bullet strikes him squarely in the chest. He falls. Lille says, "No matter the level of discipline or how perfectly regimented a group may be, all it takes is one idiot's actions to bring about their downfall. I've seen countless groups like this before. To think I actually held you Shinigami to a higher standard." Suddenly, Lille realizes Shunsui is no longer in his original position. To his surprise, Shunsui is standing behind him. Shunsui swiftly attacks with his sword, slicing Lille's gun into pieces. "That was an impressive dodge," Shunsui says. "You're pretty fast. I've taken out your weapon. Next will be your life." Lille thinks, "What's going on? From such a great distance, there's no way I gave myself away. How did he manage to get behind me so fast?" Shunsui, meanwhile, remains calm and says, "Don't tell me you've never played Daruma Fell Over." He refers to a particular children's game. Lille is confused and says, "What the hell fell over?" Meanwhile, Shunsui notices Nanao watching from behind. Shunsui tells her to leave, saying, "This one's going to be tough, so you'd ease my mind if you rejoin the others." Nanao refuses, and Shunsui orders her, "In that case, go inform the others that you'll be heading ahead of them." Nanao reluctantly agrees, saying, "All right, I'll relay the message and be back soon." Before leaving, she adds, "Captain, if you die before I get back, I'll shave all the chest hair off your lifeless corpse." Shunsui replies with a grin, "That's fine. It's one of my defining traits." Lille interrupts, "Are we done chatting?" Shunsui responds, "Don't be rude." Lille continues, "We've gathered intel on all of you from your previous battles. Your power allows you to turn children's games into reality. That's what you showed me just now, right?" Shunsui answers, "So, you managed to gather all the way to the happenings at the Spirit King's palace. Quite well informed, aren't you? But it makes sense. A Quincy would have never played Daruma Fell Over." He begins to explain the game, and Lille listens carefully, understanding. Lille says, "I see, but most of the rules seem to work conveniently in your favor. But if you're seen moving, you lose, right? That means if I see through the illusion at any moment, you'll die." Shunsui praises him. "Well done. I'm glad you're quick on the uptake. It saves me the trouble." Lille retorts, "Explaining the rules to me was a mistake, wasn't it? Now you can't use this game anymore." Shunsui calmly replies, "Not at all. It's only when both of us know the rules that we can truly call it a game. Wouldn't you agree?" Lille is taken aback by Shunsui's confidence. Shunsui clarifies, "I hate to nitpick, but there's one thing you misunderstood. The version of me you saw earlier, not moving, that wasn't an illusion. You were actually seeing the real me, in all my glory." Lille is shocked. "That was the real you?" Shunsui explains how he pulled it off, and Lille is left stunned. "Cut the crap. There's no way I'd mistake that for you." Shunsui smiles and says, "Oh, but you would. You'd do well to remember who you're talking to. I am the commander of the Gotei 13, Kyoraku Shunsui. We've put a lot of effort into making this video, yet many of you still haven't subscribed. So please consider subscribing to support our work. It would mean a lot. Thanks. Now back to the video. Lille is stunned, realizing he's fighting the head captain of all the commanders. As Lille thinks this through, Shunsui seizes the opportunity and instantly attacks. Lille counters by firing his gun at Shunsui, but to his surprise, Shunsui is already behind him. Lille doesn't stop there, though. He quickly dodges and aims directly at Shunsui's heart. "It's over. I told you can't use the game anymore," Lille declares, launching a direct attack. But to his surprise, Shunsui had already initiated his own attack. A sword rises from the ground and strikes toward Lille. However, Lille is quick and dodges at the last moment, counterattacking immediately. Shunsui says, "Now that's what I call a reaction. You're the first to dodge my attack on the first strike." Shunsui smiles and says, "That's what it means to be the captain commander." We see Lille aiming his gun at Shunsui's chest and saying, "That was rather reckless. Did you assume being in close quarters would give you a sword advantage?" Shunsui replies, "I did. I mean, you've already been cut, haven't you?" Lille is surprised by Shunsui's words, and in the next moment, realizes that his sword has been sliced in two. Shunsui continues, "My intent was to sever your entire arm, but I guess I was a bit too merciful when push came to shove." Lille quickly retreats and regains his composure, drawing another gun. He declares, "This gun is my bow, created from my shrift, the X-axis." Shunsui remarks, "I see. So no matter how many times I slice or break it, you'll just create another and keep fighting. But aren't you forgetting the rules?" In an instant, Shunsui is behind Lille, launching a slicing attack with his sword. Lille barely dodges. Shunsui adds, "If you take your eyes off me for even a moment, if your gaze happens to catch just a glimpse of my shadow, everything you see afterward might just be my silhouette. Do you remember back when you were a kid, how sometimes your own shadow would scare the living daylights out of you?" Lille is stunned, and the next moment, Shunsui stabs him from behind. Furious, Lille says, "Now you've done it. That's the third time." Shunsui is shocked, and Lille reveals, "Only when both my eyes are open can I use the true essence of the X-axis. In other words, my bullets will pass through your body, and your sword will pass right through me." Shunsui responds, "I see. So when both your eyes are open, all bets are off." Lille nods. "Correct. At this moment, within this world, no weapon can kill me. When I'm in danger during battle, I can open both my eyes. While both are open, even the worst criminals and cheaters are at my mercy." Shunsui jokes, "Ah, if that's the case, maybe you should hurry up and close them then." Lille continues, "But once I've opened my third eye in battle, I can finish the fight with my eyes open. I am the final Quincy, granted power by His Majesty. His Majesty is far more than a mere man. He's a godlike being. And for such a creation to have his eye opened after being vulnerable, even for a brief moment, is something that should never be allowed to happen." With this, we see Lille's eyes begin to glow, and a burst of energy spreads out. Shunsui steps back as Lille transforms into an angelic form called Zavre, floating in the air. Shunsui is stunned by this transformation. As he ponders his next move, Lille unleashes a barrage of attacks aimed directly at Shunsui. Shunsui takes the full brunt of the assault. Blood spills from Shunsui's body as he's thrown back, crashing into a building. Blood continues to pour from his wounds as he sits slumped against the wall. Shunsui mutters to himself, "I can still run pretty well, if I do say so myself, despite these injuries. Truth be told, it would have been easier if I'd just died right there on the spot. That's the curse of being ridiculously strong. You can't even pass out, much less die. I guess Nanao-chan will be the only one to make fun of me when I say things like that, won't she?" But Lille fires more attacks at Shunsui. Shunsui gets back on his feet, dodging the attacks by a hair's breadth, and manages to climb through a window into a nearby building. As Lille continues his relentless assault, Shunsui enters the building and runs to gain some distance. Lille taunts him, "You run well for someone so injured, but do you really think you can escape from me?" Shunsui contemplates something briefly, but before he can act, Lille attacks again, saying, I told you, no weapon is capable of cutting me down. You won't defeat me. Oh, I heard you, Shunsui replies, and in a sudden move, he cuts Lille's attack in half with his sword. Lille is shocked, and Shunsui follows up with, so how about a Kido blade? With that, he unleashes Hadona 78, Zangarin. A massive blast erupts from the building, shocking everyone below. Shinji and the others, arriving just in time, witness the explosion. On the other side of the battlefield, we see Shunsui, battered and beaten, sitting by the base of a statue. He reflects, not that I thought Kido would have much of an effect, but not even a scratch. So, this is what it's like to be out of options. He looks around and continues thinking, I've run all the way back to where we first arrived. Everyone should be far enough away by now. Then, with a resigned look, he adds, sorry if you get caught up in this too, but I guess it's time for my final option. Finally, Shunsui activates his Bankai. For the first time in Bleach, the Bankai of the Captain Commander of the Gotai 13 is revealed. Lille, floating in the air, notices the sky growing darker. Do my eyes deceive me? It feels as though the sky has dimmed, he remarks. Shunsui calmly responds, how does the world appear to you right now? Lille, stunned and confused, asks, what's happening? Shunsui explains, does it feel cold, lonely, full of despair? Lille, realizing something, says, I see. So this is your ability. Indeed, the surroundings have grown darker. Is this a Bankai? Shunsui confirms, yes, it is. Lille, unfazed, retorts, it's dark, but I wouldn't go as far as to say it's full of despair, for I am the miracle of God. He launches a barrage of attacks toward Shunsui, adding, do not feel despair. The attack is massive, breaking half the ground and destroying all the nearby buildings. Lille declares confidently, I may not know the details of your Bankai, but there is one thing I do know. Kill the wielder of the sword, and the Bankai vanishes. However, as Lille continues speaking, he suddenly notices blood pouring from his body. Stunned and in disbelief, he looks down at his wounds. Shunsui smiles and says, Act 1, Tamaraiko Zono Wakachi. Clouds begin to form around them as Shunsui explains, the wounds you inflict on others appear on your own body, as if they were mirrored. Lille suffers another strike as Shunsui adds, unfortunately for you, these wounds won't kill you. Lille, now riddled with cuts, struggles to comprehend what's happening. What is this? He exclaims. I told you, Shunsui says with a calm demeanor. This is Bankai. This is my Bankai. Blood continues to spill from Lille's body as Shunsui continues. The man who regrets wounding his partner lies in bed, consumed by shame, stricken with an incurable disease. Lille's body starts to tear apart as blood flows profusely. Shunsui then transitions to Act 3. The surroundings transform into water, and Lille finds himself drowning. Despite his best efforts, he can't seem to escape, thinking, no matter how hard I try to fly, the surface only gets further away. Shunsui's voice echoes, it's obvious, isn't it? We're already submerged in water. Flap your wings all you want. It's too late now. Although I understand how you feel, throwing yourself into frigid water can freeze your resolve. But that's just you thinking only of yourself. Even a man with strong vows cannot discard a woman's affection. Isn't that right? Suddenly, the true form of Shunsui's Bankai appears. Long time no see, Ohana, he says. A young woman materializes behind him. Ohana? How intimate. How can you call me that when you only play with me once in a while? She replies. Shunsui, in his usual light-hearted manner, says, Oh, don't be like that. I'm sorry. Look, here's your Kaimanu Rotan. The woman responds sharply. That's what you get for always covering yourself in another woman's shadow. How unsightly. Still as harsh as ever, I see, Shunsui chuckles. I may be harsh, she replies, but I am your sword, your companion, choking back my own desires. Shunsui affirms, sworn to stand by your side until the end. He then faces Lille and says, Who are you speaking to? Do you think this battle is over? That you can kill me? I see you guys are still watching but not subscribing. That's not fair. Please leave a subscribe, okay? Now let's get back to it. Lille regains his composure and says, "Do not think that a mere Shinigami Bankai can kill one such as me." Shunsui readies his sword and responds, "A woman's affection is tragic. A violent and wild man has no ear for her. The least my hands can do is cut away the thread of regret that binds you for the grand finale, the final act." With those words, Shunsui launches his final attack. The strike hits Lille's neck directly, and his neck explodes. Lille sinks into the water, and as he does, Shunsui also reaches his limit, collapsing from exhaustion. The woman beside him says, "At least we've won." However, in a shocking twist, a laser beam suddenly pierces through Shunsui's chest, leaving both him and the woman in disbelief. Lille begins to reform, laughing. "I told you! Do not think that a mere Shinigami Bankai can kill the embodiment of God." Shunsui, utterly shocked, says, "What the hell? I cut off his head, and he didn't die. I'm in trouble now." Lille grins. "Yes, this is despair. Weapons cannot kill me. Your power cannot deceive me. Despair, for I am immortal. I am invincible. I am the privilege and the misery of God. All sinners are powerless before me." Lille launches another massive attack towards Shunsui, a strike so powerful that it cuts down the surrounding structures and causes a massive explosion, leaving destruction in its wake. As Lille finds Shunsui, he mocks him, "To think you still have the strength to run from my light of judgment, especially after your black Dal-E has been hollowed out by my purifying light. But I expected nothing less from the head captain. So sinful." Shunsui, completely beaten up and on the verge of collapse, mutters, "Sakura no Suki, let us run away." Exhausted, Shunsui's condition worsens, and the woman beside him, his sword spirit, speaks, "I can do nothing more against an opponent that even Karamatsu Shinjuku cannot kill. You have fought until you were out of breath and nearly unconscious. Should you run now, no one would condemn you. Rest for a while, and I shall carry you away." As Shunsui's eyes begin to close, suddenly, Nanao appears, pleading, "Please wake up." Shunsui, surprised and happy to see Nanao, is momentarily revitalized. Nanao, caught up in his Bankai, interrupts him and insists, "There's no time to talk about promises. You must give me your Zanpakuto. Quickly forget the promise you made to my mother." At that moment, Lille appears and taunts them. "What is this? I wondered what all the commotion was. So the adjutant has returned? After the captain tried so hard to keep you away, you still lack reverence for life. How very sinful." Lille launches yet another attack, and after it seems they have narrowly escaped again, he mutters, "My eyes are getting dry now, from looking upon sinners for too long." Shunsui and Nanao hide somewhere nearby. Shunsui speaks softly. "So, I guess you knew about everything with your mother?" Nanao responds, "Yes." Shunsui sighs. "The entire time?" "Yes," she affirms. Shunsui, humbled, says, "Man, no, I'm no match for you. All right then, I give it back." With that, he hands Nanao her original Zanpakuto. Lille is flying in the air, scanning for Shunsui and Nanao. "They're gone. Where are they hiding?" he mutters, frustration evident in his voice. As he begins searching, he senses something. "What do we have here? I see. So Kaizor allows you to stay within a shadow for this long. In that case, what would happen if I were to eliminate that shadow from the ground?" Suddenly, Shunsui emerges from a small shadow, launching a surprise attack. He jumps into the air and kicks Lille directly on the head, revealing the true cover of his sword. Lille, caught off guard, says, "So, you can even emerge from such a tiny shadow?" We then see a flashback from just a few minutes ago. Shunsui and Nanao are holding a certain sword. Nanao, determined, says, "You don't want to give me the sword, I know that, and it's for my own good. But just as my mother decided to abandon the curse of her own free will, I've decided to accept the curse of my own free will. And even if I do accept it, I just get the feeling that the man I admire would laugh off the curse as foolish." Shunsui, reluctantly but understanding her resolve, says, "All right, I'll give it to you. With this sword, I am sure." Back in the present, Lille floats in the air while Nanao stands firm beside him. He remarks, "Now that I've gotten a good look, I see only the adjutant has emerged. Does this mean she intends to fight me alone?" Nanao, unwavering, finally unleashes her sword, Shinken Hakyoken. As she brandishes the blade, Lille questions, "What is this sword of yours? It shines with a rather vulgar brightness. It's so bright I can't even see the blade." Nanao calmly replies, "If that's so, good. This sword possesses the power of gods and reflects their might. If it appears to your eyes to be shining, then that means it's capturing the divine light you emit." Lille, amused by her words, retorts, "I have no idea what you're talking about, but it certainly doesn't feel bad to be called a god." Nanao launches an attack directly at Lille. Unfazed, he says, "Do you intend to cut me with that sword? Very well, go ahead and try. There is no sword that can cut me." As Lille defends himself, Nanao steps back, realizing he merely dodged her strike. Lille continues, "I was wondering about the strength of that sword, but upon closer inspection it doesn't even have a blade. It's a clear sign that it is dangerous, attacking someone with a sword like that. Did you really think you could cut my body? But this is as far as you're going to get. You should have made sure your last attack killed me." Nanao stands there, briefly terrified by Lille's words. Lille taunts, "A god's misery will not be caught off guard for a second time." Meanwhile, Shunsui, deep in thought, finally moves. He gets up and walks over to Nanao, placing his hand on the sword with her. "Here we go," he says, offering his support. "Thank you," Nanao replies, feeling emboldened by his presence. Together they prepare for the next phase of the battle. As Lille rises into the air, he begins to gather energy from all around, forming a massive glowing sphere above him. Preparing to launch his final attack, Lille sneers at Shunsui and Nanao standing together below him. "So, you've shown yourself at last," he says, his voice dripping with disdain. "What an awful captain, hiding behind your subordinates. Here are my trumpets and praise." Shunsui, standing calmly next to Nanao, whispers, "Nanao-chan, here we go. I'll be right behind you, supporting you." Nanao nods, feeling his confidence flowing into her. "Yes," she replies. "It's as though your kindness is strengthening me." As Lille releases his devastating attack, Nanao and Shunsui counter with their own. In a flash of brilliance, their combined strike slices through Lille's body, cutting him clean in half. Stunned, Lille holds his severed torso, shock visible on his face. Nanao, standing tall, responds to his earlier arrogance. "You said something about God, about repelling divine power." Even as his body is falling apart, Lille smiles through the pain. To repel the power of a god, that is such a grievous sin. With that, his body explodes mid-air, fragments of his form scattering everywhere, his feathers spreading across the battlefield as his presence fades. As the dust settles, Nanao, weakened from the effort, begins to collapse. Shunsui catches her just in time, his voice gentle. "You did great, Nanao. How about we catch up with everyone else now?" But as he tries to move, Shunsui himself collapses, his exhaustion finally taking its toll. Lying on the ground, he sighs, "Yes, we'll do that, after a little rest." And so, the battle comes to a close. Shunsui, with the help of Nanao, defeats Lille, bringing an end to the hard-fought fight. By the way, there were many scenes exploring the past of Shunsui and Nanao, how Nanao got her sword, and more. These moments spanned 3 to 4 chapters, but since the focus of this video was Shunsui versus Lille Barro and his Bankai, I only included relevant parts. If you'd like to watch a full breakdown of Nanao versus Lille Barro, feel free to comment below. Also, if you want me to cover any other topics, let me know. I'd be happy to create more videos based on your suggestions. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video.